And we are live. JT here. Welcome to The Huddle. The Huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to thank you. Whether you are joining us live as we stream into our Facebook community, whether you are catching the replay on YouTube or on Facebook, or whether you're listening to the audio and on the podcast, thank you so much for being here with me and my special guest today. And here's my friendly reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. And my challenge to you today is to keep your mind wide open, because I guarantee you that you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will allow you, most importantly, to succeed at the game of life. I've been looking forward to my conversation today with my special guest. We connected early last month, just on a conversation. And I was just blown away, just learning more about his journey and what he's up to and how he's choosing to show up and serve the world. My guest in the huddle today is currently serving as the creator of PurpleShift. He is also a former Texas Tech football alum and currently plays linebacker for the Ottawa Redblacks in the Canadian Football League. My guest in the huddle today is Micah Awe. How are you today, brother?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Awesome.
So, brother, one thing I'm a firm believer in, one thing I always try to remind myself is to count your blessings, because it just feels better. And one of the things I'm feeling most blessed for today is being able to have our conversation. I'm a firm believer that the greatest gift we can give anyone is our time and energy. So thank you so much for choosing to invest some of your time into energy into being here with me today, brother, and our community. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a huge opportunity for me to talk to you and to also talk to others through you. So I couldn't be any happier.
Okay. I love it, brother. So one of the things I like to do in the huddle is I like to have some fun. And part of it is I like to remind people that life is a game and games are supposed to be fun. So I'm curious, what is a interesting fact? I had a coaching colleague that used to call it, like, we all have our quirks that maybe a lot of people don't know about you, that you would be open to sharing with our community.
Interesting fact. I think I have a lot of those. People who know me know I have a lot of those, but I guess the one that kind of relates to this conversation the most is the fact that my first ever moment in football, I was chosen to be on the D team. And for people who might not know, you have your A team, team number one, then you have your B team, team number two. And sometimes you even have a C team. And then rarely you have a D team just because there's so many people within the school. And I was put on the D team and to start off my football career. And I kind of think that made kind of who I am today in a sense. So that's a little quirk that's, I think, really been a moment that I'll never forget. And it's been kind of like my driver, one of my drivers in my life.
I love that, brother. And what I really heard from you was this idea that it's really easy sometimes to see where people are at, right? Like, people see you, oh, this creator PurpleShift, he's a professional athlete. And it's sometimes a reminder that there have been a lot of focus reps and sets that have been put in many different areas of your life that have got you to where you are, right? And I love the fact of, what I also heard from you is your experiences have made you who you are. So I just love that reminder, and that reminder, brother.
Oh, thank you. And you couldn't be any right. And I like how you opened it up with a mind is best when it's, like a parachute when it's best opened up, because that's I'm not lying. Like for the past year specifically, and my whole life, I've always been open to everyone and to anything anyone ever says to me or I ever hear. I try to take something from it because it could be really powerful in your life.
No, and that's great. And I love it. I just love, now I start to see lifestyle divine timing, and I can see why we're having this conversation today. So Mike, I'm curious, sport has obviously played an important role for you in your life. I'm curious, what has been the biggest life lesson that sport has taught you that you find yourself still applying to your life today?
I mean, I got to go back to that first moment. And I'll go a little bit more specifically into it. And I'll just go into the story. So the way it happened is, I was at Coble Middle School in Mansfield, Texas, still there. Go Coyotes. And the first day, all they had was a line. They had this huge line. First day of football practice, huge line. Never played football before. I'm from Nigeria. My family's all about soccer. The Nigerian football team, actually, soccer team, just won against Egypt today and won the tournament. So congrats to them. But they had us all lined up, and there was a coach at the very end, and he would just point left or right. And you could tell about halfway through that the kids to the left looked really athletic, looked like they were going to be some A-teamers. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, I'm an A-teamer, of course, hands down. And, not only did I get pointed to the right, I got pointed to the very bottom of the right, on D team. So being on the bottom of the totem pole, I just remember that feeling. I cried to my dad on the way home, and he didn't even know I was crying. I really didn't even know what I was crying. I just knew that it didn't feel good to be at the bottom, especially for something that, we didn't do any tests, nothing. It was just how I looked. And that really struck deep in me. And what I realized is that next spring, we were doing spring training, and I was doing some push-ups, and we were counting and stuff. And every time I would count, I would count and say this guy's name. He was like a prodigy. He played running back. He was A-teamer, all this. And I was like, beat him. And one of my teammates laughed at me and was like, "You're crazy. Like, I don't know what you're talking about." And eventually we all went to high school, and that guy I said beat him. I actually had a big hit on him in front of Jerry Jones at the brand new Dallas Cowboys stadium. Okay. And so I realized from that point, I probably wasn't very athletic. I probably didn't look that good. I was short, I was stocky. But now, I'm one of the most athletic linebackers, and people always say, "Oh, you're born that way. You're born that way." I'm like, no, I truly can tell people I worked hard to gain athleticism. I worked extremely hard to be more athletic. And that's something that's carried throughout my whole entire life, is that you may not be good at something at first, but as long as you see a little glimmer of hope, you can work for it. You can keep on working for it. And that, you can be whatever you think you want to be if it's tangible, if something you can touch. And I knew I could work hard. I knew I could outwork other kids. So that's what I did. And that's why it's also extended my CFL career, because I know as a starter that there's some Micah Awe out there that wants to take my spot. So I'll never let off the gas because of that, because I know how it is to be on the bottom and go to the top. So that is truly one moment. And I say that with all my heart, with everything I do, that I know it was so painful that it became like a blessing, that I know how to get out of it now. So that's my moment.
Brother, I appreciate you sharing it. And what I really loved about what you shared and what I heard from you was, we are so programmed to live from the outside in, right? To that other people can define who we are, our self-worth. But I love how you looked at it. What can I control? And you turned that, you gave yourself that power back, right? Like you knew that you could create whatever you wanted, and it always starts from within. So I'm curious from you, that ability to focus on what you can control, to that willingness to put in the sometimes uncomfortable reps and sets. Was there a moment that you remember that light bulb went on that really helped you to understand that, I can create whatever I want from the inside?
Man, there's a lot of moments. And I'm trying to think of one specifically. I guess it was I just jumped to my professional career. Actually, one of my professors, Dr. Watson, he messaged on my I retweeted about the post on LinkedIn, and I really thank him a lot. But he was the head of petroleum engineers, and he was the head professor. And he played football as well back in the day, so he could relate to me, going through things. But I just bring all that up to say that, so the draft happened. So I'm sitting there with my girlfriend, fiance now, and it's just me and her, and we're just watching day one. And I knew from just things like, all right, I'm probably not going to go on day one. Day two came by, and my agent said maybe, possibly. Day three went by. He's like, all right, there's a good chance. The whole day went by and nothing happened. So now I'm kind of sitting on the couch and I'm thinking like, well, I mean, I played football since 7th grade. I was on that D team, and now it's kind of like, is it over? And but in my heart, I knew I had put everything I had into it, and I had actually performed as well. So I knew that I would get some kind of chance. And it was 2 weeks after the draft. It was a week after the draft. I'm in class, and I actually get a call, and my agent said, hey, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to give you a chance to go to rookie minicamp. Now to put this in perspective, it might be like, oh wow, you made the team. No, I was far from it, but I didn't know all this at the time. So this rookie minicamp is for 90 athletes, 90 to 100. It just depends on how much they want to bring in. And you're really there to help give the guys that they rested or that they drafted and the guys that they got as priority free agents rest. That's what you're there for. You're not there to actually make the team. It's really just like the last hurrah that I think it's nice that they do that. And but me, I went in thinking, oh, I'm taking someone's spot. Why? Because I've been here before. I've been on the totem pole before, and ironically enough, instead of having from D team all the way to high school, I had 3 days to do this. And I knew in my mind, I've done this before. And sure enough, first day I'm at third string Will. No one knows about me. And I do so well in the first practice that the second practice, they changed me to first string Will. And the guy that they had, I mean, unfortunately, they cut him, and then they signed me at the end of the 3-day camp. And I say all that because it's kind of like this reoccurring theme that keeps happening, that keeps basically confirming that that's just what happens. Like, I shouldn't be scared about what it seems like, the bleakness of it. I should just know that if I give myself a chance, if I put myself in a way to have a chance, then this is what's going to come out. And it's not because I want it to. It's not because like, oh, I really believe I want it so bad. It's because at some point I did have production. I was leading tackle in Big 12, 127 tackles. I led the Big 12 in tackles. I had 17 tackles against LSU. So it's not like I just hoped and was like wanting it. I knew what I put in, but I knew it at the same time, being a smaller linebacker, running a 4.67, which we'll get back to later. Yeah. It's not draftable. So that's exactly what these moments. Again, I said one moment, but really these kind of moments keep happening.
Yeah. No, and I know we're going to dive in a couple of minutes into the inspiration behind Purple Shift, but it's so interesting that, the more I talk to you, the more I realize how much of your driver was just bringing the power back to yourself, creating your own path and empowering yourself to create your own future. So I'm curious, I would love to hear the inspiration behind why you created Purple Shift and just, what was the inspiration behind that, brother?
The inspiration behind it, I mean, honestly, everything is it's kind of selfish, but then it's also like I said, I already had these moments that I went through that, I mean, somewhat called luck, but I believe luck is neutral. Luck happens good or bad, but you have to put yourself in position to receive that good or bad. And what I did as a kid on D team was I worked hard, and eventually luck came by. Texas Tech came by, my only scholarship. And, with my professional football career, I realized that there's this word called, or words called 40-yard dash that is actually the same exact as a GPA coming out of college. It's the same prowess, it's the same power, but it's for football. And what I realized is that, if that time was correct, honestly, on the flip side, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. Maybe I would have got drafted first round. But then again, on the flip side, everything in me says there's a reason why that didn't happen, and that's why I am talking to you. So I wanted to make sure that kids in the future, it's not leaving it up to who you know, or it's not about, it shouldn't be about who you know in sports. It should be about what you do. And that's why I made Purple Shift. It's the SAT of sports. This way now I know as a kid, one of the biggest things that most kids don't understand about D1 Power 5 football teams is that they're not necessarily looking for the best football players in high school. They're looking for the best athletes. They're looking for the prime athletes because they believe that they can coach you up to be a better linebacker, to be a better running back. But if we know that you have a high athletic ceiling, that's what they really want. And specifically for my story, when I went to the Nike, my junior year, I got very lucky. My coach, Coach Sample from Mansfield Summit, it was the end of our spring football, which in Texas, yes, spring football. That's how much we love football. Yeah. And it's the end of my junior year. And last practice, he's like, "Hey, Micah, you going into Camp C summer?" I was like, "Probably not, coach." I mean, I was all district already. Like, I was a good player. And he's like, "Now, Micah, I know you're good, but you won't just get found like that. You need to do something about it." And I was like, "Well, I don't know. My dad, he's really into school. I got like a couple C's. It cost money. I don't know if this is going to work out." And he's like, "Give me your dad's number." So he got my dad's number, and my dad's like, "Hey, he has C's. Like, he's gonna, like, we don't want him to fail. Like, football's just like a hobby. Like, what's going on?" And Coach Sample explained to him, like, if Micah doesn't get himself out there, he's going to be twiddling his thumbs a senior because he's not going to have any offers, and he should be. And so he convinced me and convinced my dad, and I ended up going to Nike Spark Combine, and it's a good combine. You do the 40-yard dash, this and that, and I actually end up having the second highest vertical jump in the nation of all outside linebackers. It was like 44 inches. You can actually go look this up on ESPN. And like a day later, here comes Texas Tech at my high school. And they were like, "Oh yeah, a buddy of mine that worked the combine said, hey, there's this athletic linebacker. Y'all should check him out." And then they saw my film, and then they wanted to offer me. So I say all this to say, to the kids out there listening, to coaches out there listening that may not know, but it was the same film. I made the highlight film by myself, and I put it out on YouTube. But that's not what got me the scholarship. What got me a scholarship was that vertical jump, was my athletic ability. And me knowing that as a professional athlete, that continues. If you're not a first round pick, then why would they want you? You got to be fast. You got to be athletic. Something has to be different. You can't just be a great linebacker. And that's why I made this app, because I know that's actually the way for athletes who want to go to the next level to decipher themselves. And not just that, now just like the SAT, to get into Harvard, there's a certain SAT score. Once PurpleShift gets big and it's being used, there's going to be a certain SAT score to get into Texas Tech. There's going to be a certain SAT score to get into Alabama. But the most powerful part about all this is that the athlete knows what the SAT score is, and they can work towards it, just like I work towards it. If I knew that I needed a 44-inch vertical to get to Texas Tech before, trust me, I would have worked hard to do that. So that's kind of like the inspiration. And my last little story would be because I had a lot of stories, kind of like, maybe you should make this. I actually made this idea about 3 years ago, and I told Solomon Elaminian about it. And, he was like, this is a great idea. But then one thing that I thought about was when I was Tampa Bay, I made the team for 1 week on the practice squad, which was amazing because that was like a dream come true. But I got cut hard knock style. This guy I had never seen before was like, hey, Micah, come upstairs. I was like, oh man, I thought I was getting activated, but I wasn't. I was getting cut. But as I'm sitting there in the Grim Reaper's office, I see, the offensive chart on top on this TV screen and defensive chart on bottom. And it's Will linebackers and, Levante David's first string linebacker, going to be a future Hall of Famer, came out in 2012. And then second string, and then I was third string. And one thing that I realized is that all they had was our names and our 40 times. And that 40 time, that 4.67 I mentioned earlier, again, at Texas Tech Pro Day, at my year, we didn't have any lasers. So this 4.67 was a scout's hand. And I don't think they were trying to mess it up. It's just that when you talk about 40 times, and for those who don't know, you're talking about from anything from a 5.00 to a 4.22. Now, I dare y'all to go home right now and try to do that on your stopwatch on your phone and try to get the same number 3, 4, 5 times in a row. It's not going to happen. So that's what made me realize, why don't we just have a standardized way of getting this time if it's so important? Why don't we have a standardized way of getting any athletic time? Because that is so important. And then after that, we can then focus on the football film once you know the athlete fits your criteria. So that's what inspired me, and knowing that the technology was out there. And again, a silver lining was COVID year. It was 2020 when I was reading articles about our season getting possibly shut down. I already had this idea. I had it all in my mind. The next thing to do was to actually do something about it. And one thing that drove me a lot was I was lucky to get a good enough contract in Toronto to hold me over for this year. But there's a lot of my other teammates who weren't lucky. They're looking for jobs. They're trying to get jobs. They're trying to survive during this COVID. And I knew that if I built this app and it starts blowing up, I built a system for them to actually make money, which I already talked to CFLPA about. So you talk about time, and this is something I've kind of realized on my own. Time is the most valuable thing. I knew that since I was blessed enough to have a year off and work on this app, every time I got tired, I'm like, I can't get tired because there's some kid out there that needs this app, that needs to use this app. That there's a kid out there that I need to put my time in, that I have, that can't rest. He has to go to work. He has to go work somewhere just to survive. But I need to build this app so you can have an avenue to go to the next level, or she or he, for any sport. So sorry, that's a big spill, but that was the inspiration behind PurpleShift.
Micah, what I love about that story, brother, and what I really heard from you is your story speaks volumes about your commitment to being a servant-based leader. And what I mean by that is you are serving that person you once were. Like, you've identified, here is what the schools are looking for, this 40-yard time. So here, at least then, by putting this out there, by you using your lived experience as an athlete, by you using your specialized knowledge coming from an engineering background, you've been able to create this tool that makes it more accessible, that allows people to just capture real-time data. It's just feedback, really, right? It's not good or bad, it's just data, so that again, the power goes back into the hands of the athlete. So I'm curious from you, brother, what has it been like? Like as you're seeing this vision become more and more real, what have you noticed? Like what has been maybe, yeah, I'd just love to know what's your experience been like as it's become more real?
Yeah, thankfully, thankfully I've had a lot of just really good people along the way that have been willing to help. I mean, from the very beginning, when I just had friends, I was at, I'll be at a party or something and they're like, oh, I'll do it. And them just giving me feedback. And it's so ironic how, I created the app, but how similar that is to football. Because the only way to get better is to be out there. I remember I'm texting my high school football coach, Coach Sample, and I said something about like, yeah, I got knocked on my butt or something like that. Like someone got me one time. And it doesn't happen very often, but it happens. And he told me, well, that's because you're out there. Of course it's gonna happen. Like, so he said that and I was like, well, he's right. I mean, the only way you get better is if you put yourself out there. The only way you get better is if you actually get feedback. If you have to fail to get better. So throughout the whole time, and I made this last year. So almost a year ago is when the first kind of rendition of PurpleShift came out. And this last month, I remade the whole app again for the third time. But now it's from all the past experiences of where everyone's been telling me, this is bad, this is good, this is bad, this is good, that it's combined into one. And then I went to the AFCA convention last week. And again, we had 3 days. First day, there was a lot of glitches. I went back home, fixed it. I'm thinking, I'm done. Second day, more glitches. I mean, these coaches are doing the same thing. I'm like, how am I missing this? But as I keep going, again, I'm getting better and better. And I've realized that, one big thing is that these coaches, when they come and talk to me and they understand what it is, it's like this light bulb just goes off and they're like, wow, this can actually help my kids. And when they say help their kids, it's to help their kids know if they were a D1 athlete, D2 athlete, D3 athlete, NAIA, or they're part of the OUA, or they're just not, football's not their thing in the future athletically. But it just lets people know where they stand so that they can do something about it. And I think that's the biggest thing. And, these universities have gone on, Stephen F. Austin, Texas Tech, my alma mater, they've realized that, wow, this is so powerful because it really just helps filter the process down so that we don't lose diamond in the roughs. Because that's really what it is. There's a lot of kids out there who truly deserve opportunities. And even more so, it's not even really opportunities, just they deserve a chance to be seen. And this is finally something that I believe that coaches have realized, and they told me that, just get this out. Like that's literally the biggest feedback is just like, get it out there. Like this needs to be everywhere because it helps the entire football industry.
I really heard two things from you, and it's a couple of things have come up for me as you were just sharing there. The first thing was the power of having great mentors and coaches in our life, right? And what the word that came up for me a lot was like encouragement, right? And really, what is it, right? Like you having the courage to put yourself out there, right? To actually move into action, not just talk about it, but actually take focused action and moving there. And what I heard was those great coaches or mentors, like your high school coach, they're just pouring those words of, of just keep going, Micah, keep going, of how powerful that is. The second thing I thought about was, as you were talking about, I just think of my experience coming from a background as a high school phys ed teacher. And I remember we would always do fitness testing at the start and the end of a semester. I always looked at it as this is just an opportunity, it's just feedback, just to kind of see, some baseline to see where we're at. But you mentioned diamonds in the roughs. I was always looking out because I'm a big relationship guy. So I used to find fitness testing isn't always, people aren't signing up for phys ed to do fitness testing, the majority of people. But I remember I would always really spend a lot of time, engaging with kids, and how many diamonds in the rough you would find. Oh, all of a sudden there's a student that absolutely kills it on the beat test. Hey, have you ever thought about maybe going out for a cross country, running some track? And then all of a sudden they're like, you've poured into them because you've acknowledged that some greatness you see in them, and then they go out, have some success. And that's like the idea of like pouring into other people and encouraging people to really be at their best. So you kind of got me all fired up with the applications for what PurpleShift could do even like in phys ed settings. So that's what.
Yeah. And I again, for anyone, any coach, any trainers, recruiters, it's not, I don't want them to think that PurpleShift is like competition. It's not.
Yeah.
It literally is a tool to be used for what you already do. Yeah. And like you said, like, because what you just said sounds a lot like a recruiter to me. Like you're doing X amount, you're a trainer for NFL athletes, but you have connections with NFL scouts. And the NFL scouts know that, hey, we trust you because you train these athletes. You will tell us who truly moves well and stuff like that. So now all PurpleShift is that you're still going to tell them, hey, this kid moves well, but now you can confirm it with PurpleShift results. You can give them, the verified data. And what happens a lot from professional ranks all the way down to college is that the higher rank, the higher coach or whatever you would call him, would call down to, the high school coach and say, hey, what does this kid run? And now it's up to the coach to, they want to sell their athlete, but at the same time, they want to be truthful. Now PurpleShift is that third party. Hey, this is what he runs, but let's talk about how great of a linebacker he is.
Yeah.
And now they can move forward to that and just not have to worry about that and saying, hey, don't trust me, but you can trust me as a linebacker coach that this is one of the best linebackers I've had. So that's kind of where I think PurpleShift can be really powerful in. And yep, so that's what I got on that. And I guess the last thing I would say about the encouragement, because one moment didn't come up in my mind. And this is for any kid or any coach, it doesn't matter. You're never too old. But Texas Tech came and they said they wanted to give me a scholarship, but they said they would do it when I go to satellite camp. There's a satellite camp in Rockwall, Texas. And they're like, just come. And basically, like, they put me through a combine. And I think they were just trying to confirm the athleticism themselves. So I went there, ran a great time, jumped great, vertical jump, everything was great. But everything, in my mind at least, came down to one moment. We were on the field for one-on-ones, and it was right after one-on-ones. I did, a good job, this and that. And my coach, Coach Prunny, he was the one who was recruiting me. He told me, he pulled me over to the side. He said, hey, Micah. I was like, yes, coach. This is a little 18 Micah, or 17-year-old Micah. And he's like, yes, coach. I said, yes, coach. He's like, go over here to Coach Glasgow, which is the defense coordinator. He was out in the middle of the field, just like observing. I'm talking about by himself, no one else around him. He said, go out there and tell him that you want to be a Red Raider. I seem like an extrovert, but I'm really introvert. But when I tell you, I didn't think about any repercussions at all. My mind was just go. I didn't even think about anything else other than just go. So I just walked up to the coach, Coach Glasgow, and I said, Coach Glasgow, I'd love to be a Red Raider. And he looked me in the eyes and then he shook my hand and said, Micah, congratulations, we're going to offer you a full ride scholarship. And this is a moment that I actually don't say a lot, but when you were saying the words of encouragement, I mean, this is a coach that, of course, he's encouraging me to go get a scholarship, but like, there's no guarantee. Like there was just no guarantees there, but at the same time, it's just encouraged me to just go to the next step. And now I really don't have any fears when I'm like, if the president came, Trudeau or Joe Biden or any kind of, someone just told me, hey, go say hi to him. I will go, because to me, they're humans just like me. They probably have a similar story to where, they understand, I don't know. I just feel like they're a human at the end of the day, and they have access or means to help you out, and you have means to help them out at the same time. So go ahead and just go and try your best. So I'm sorry that kind of got brought up in my mind.
No, and I just love that story. And what came up for me, just picturing this 17, 18-year-old Micah walking up to this coach, right? And what I love about that is, it's that thoughts become things. Or if we want to look at from a scientific perspective, the law of perpetual transmutation, right? That idea, like you asked for what you wanted. You wanted to be a Red Raider. And there's that level of calm and confidence of asking for that. And I think it just reminds me that how we are so programmed to focus on what we don't want, right? But it's interesting, just the energy, the vibration, the frequency you get into, where you kind of just go and you're like, here's what I want. And there's power there. So that's what I really love about that. You just asking for what you want, brother.
Thank you. And it's so true. The power of just thinking about what you want. Just think about it, and then eventually your actions lead to it, and then eventually things happen towards that way.
Great thought combined with great action, great results. Love that.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm curious, brother, like over the last year, you used the time, right? You've used this interesting time, we'll call it, in human history as an opportunity to really dive deeper into this, right? To really focus on helping and serving others. When I shared that we were talking in the huddle today, there was a lot of great feedback, right? I'm curious, what has it been like, right? You recently, you're collaborating with Football Canada, right? We've had conversations around Football Ontario and using it with our high performance athletes, right? I noticed in CAFA in Ottawa, the big minor football there is using the tool as well. What has it been like just seeing more of that validation that this is something worthwhile? Like, what would you say has probably been, I don't know, the thing that's brought the most joy to your heart?
Wow. To me, I've had a couple talks with, it's just like, when people log in, and you start seeing them post, and then you see them claim locations, something they can do on PurpleShift. Okay. I start seeing where people are. I mean, there's people that are in Benin, a country next to Nigeria, that are logging in. There's a kid in Nigeria that logged in. I'm seeing people from Florida, from Alberta, from British Columbia this morning. Like there's a lot of just seeing where everyone is and how widespread this app could be and how useful it is. I mean, again, I made this, for anyone to have the opportunity, including people in third world countries, that all they have, thankfully, is a smartphone. Yeah. At least there's smartphones, and that smartphone basically evens the playing field to where, I was lucky. My family, I was born in Nigeria, and we came over when I was 3, and we came over on a visa lottery. I'm sure maybe some older folks know about that, but I'm sure no one from my generation knows about that. I barely know about it, but it is exactly what you think it is. It's a lottery for getting a visa. And my mom just happened to sign up one day, and we were one of 10 million that signed up and got the visa to come to the States. So in a way, you can say if we'd never got lucky, would I be here right now? But I would hope, and again, this comes down to time again, and given time, I would hope that maybe some kid who did get the opportunity is doing something to give me an opportunity. Because it's full circle, and that's what it makes me think. It's that if I need to give back, and the best way for me to give back is to give back opportunity. Because again, I'm blessed to have time because I got paid a good amount of money to play football. That's a really good thing, and people are like, oh, that's amazing. So, but I'm not going to sit there and just load all of it in and be like, oh, well, life is good for me. I feel like I need to at least give back, and this is the best way I can give back, especially in football, especially in sports, because I know when it happens, when that first kid gets a scholarship to Stephen F. Austin or gets a scholarship to Texas Tech because, whoa, we found a diamond in the rough. That's going to be the day that I'm really like, wow. But even right now, just seeing the coaches on it, to seeing the athletes on it. And again, the AFCA convention, we had a competition for vertical jumps among the coaches, of course. You know, we went to academies and got these great Yeti cups. So a regular big Yeti cup, and then a bigger one, like a, you know, second place was bigger one. And the third one was a half-gallon Yeti, you know, Yeti with a magnetic seal on it. I mean, but I told the coaches, like, hey, if you sign up, you get a shirt. If you sign up and get first place, you get this. And we had 41 coaches do the vertical jump in 3 days. And even though that's not a lot, but it did a couple things. Obviously, it helped them teach how easy the system was. But then you can see like the passion and the athleticness, and it kind of brings all the coaches back to why they got into football in the first place. It's because of that competition, and it's what makes you happy. So these are the things that collectively, just seeing these coaches right now jump for a vertical jump, that makes me super happy.
Okay. I just had this amazing picture. I just think of, you know, having these coaches all kind of, you know, go back in the heyday and just watching that athlete mindset kick in, right? And just, okay, I'm ready to go.
Right. And it got pretty competitive. I will say that. I'm not even lying about that. There's a group of coaches from Missouri that were all in the same district, but they all coached against each other, and they were all jumping against each other. I can just see it right now. They're like, oh, we shut your defense down, you know, a lot last year. And I'm just like, this is just hilarious. But it was a great feeling.
Okay. So, brother, I have one last question for you. You know, it's a year from now, right? Or 3 years, 5 years, we're sometime in the future. And I want you to sort of pretend like, again, you know that time and money isn't a concern, and that you have King Midas's touch. What would 10xing your vision for PurpleShift look like? Like what is possible?
Oh man, you asked the wrong guy. I've already thought about this so many times. Okay. So my 10x, well, it's probably more than that. Let's just be honest. And I'd like to say a story. I was driving from, we just moved into San Antonio, me and my fiance. We were driving from Fort Worth to San Antonio, and we passed by the Gigafactory by Tesla. And it's called the Gigafactory for a reason. It is, my fiance was asleep and I woke her up and she thought it was a cloud. That's how big it was. But, you know, my 10x, my 100x, my 10,000x would be, there's PurpleShift gyms everywhere. And you're able to walk in and it'll know exactly who you are. And you have the 40-yard dash to your right. You have the vertical jump over there. And you don't need any equipment, anything else. It's just like a playground. It's a playground to go have fun. And then you're competing against people. And, you know, there's a huge scoreboard. And you're earning, you're earning PurpleShift coins and getting Starbucks gift cards for working out. You know, it's just like this. Basically, it comes back down to my D team days. Is when you work hard physically, real life, you work hard for something, you get something in return. That's what it comes down to. And I think that's what PurpleShift can be. That, because at the end of the day, these kids, yes, it's a recruiting app right now, but these kids at least know that, hey, like, I did everything I could to be on the next level. And, you know, even for me, I knew at that Tampa Bay training camp or rookie mini camp, if I didn't make the team, I would have been completely okay with it, because I know I put everything I could into it. And I know that I performed I was one of the best performers. So I at least knew that for myself. If these kids can go on this app and maybe the fastest 40 they can run is a 4.8, at least they know that, hey, I trained with a trainer for, 6 months and all I got was 4.8. That wasn't good enough to go to college, but I did my very best. Because as long as you do your very best, what you have capable, then you can't be mad about yourself. You can only be like, all right, I guess this is not my path, and move on, but without any regrets. So that's what kind of like my 10x is. You go in there and, it's health and fitness, it's recruiting, it's whatever you want it to be. And you know that you're going to get something out of it because you're going to put your best into it. So that's kind of like my 10x, and AI systems and other things that I'm not going to get into, but basically that.
Okay. Well, brother, one, I acknowledge you for having the courage to share your 10x, your 1000x, your 10,000x vision. And I see that happening. Like, I think we're going to look back and have that conversation. Hey, remember when we had that conversation in the huddle, when we first planted that seed? Hey, and look where we are now. So I love that, brother. So again, acknowledge you for that. You know, and you bring up an interesting point as well as you were sharing. Just on a side note, you know, one of the things that I do, so I drive my kids to school most days, like 99% of the days. And one of the things that on the car ride, you know, it's a chance for us just to connect, right? For me to be a dad. Interestingly enough, my parents, also being immigrants, just were working. They didn't have the flexibility to drive. So I always like driving my kids just to, you know, that's what I needed. I always remind them, I love them. I'm proud of them. But it's interesting. I always ask them, what are you committing to today? And we have this expectation in our house, regardless of what it is. And they always tell me, I am going +1. And for us, +1, it pays homage to my background in football as a player and a coach. And that means they're willing to go put in their best effort and attitude. They're willing to go a yard past what's expected of them. And it's interesting how, like you said, that when you focus on what you can control, that you always control your best effort and attitude, that my kids, their calm and confidence has skyrocketed. And two, the results are showing up in different areas of life, school, their sports, and just most importantly, the game of life. So I just want to thank you for that reminder. And it shows such a simple lesson that you can apply to your life.
Yeah. And I guess one quick little thing, because again, this is maybe for any football players out there, but it's something I go through every single game. I always think, like, because I'm a little bit analytical. So I'm like, all right, I did really well last time we played in Montreal, or, you know, whatever team we played. But what says I'm going to do the same thing? You know, it's always about your performance. No matter, you know, professional football is about performing. You know, so you can be the best in practice, but how do you become the best in games? And games are a completely different beast. And one thing that you said that, you know, I'd like to tell any athlete or even just anyone, because it applies to any industry, and something Coach Wally Wano used to always tell me when I was BC Lions, he said, football is a microcosm of life. And it's so true. But one thing I always kind of fall back on, because you said about your kid's confidence, is that's why I practice so hard. I practice so hard to guarantee my performance. It sounds crazy and stupid, but, you know, I'm not one of those players that has any rituals or anything like that, because I don't believe in that. But I do believe in the ritual of working hard, and not just working hard, performing really well, taking practice like a game. Because by the time you get a game, it's not about if you performed well or not. It's just about if you worked hard. Like, did I run to the ball? And you just do natural things that you can control. And eventually, you know, McLeod will throw you a pick. You know, eventually Bo Levi will throw you a pick. Dane Evans will throw you a pick. Like, eventually you'll be right in front of these people for you to get a pick or get a big hit or a forced fumble. But you have to just do the basic things that you know you can control. And that's how you have confidence in what you're doing, is that, you know, you put in the work. So why be scared? Like, I put in the work. It's not luck. I'm going to go out there and do what I've been doing for the past 5 days. And so that's something I like to say, you know. Thank you.
No, I love it, brother. So, you know, a lot of our community, again, our athletes, their coaches, you know, what can we do to help and support you right now in Purple Shift?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like, if you're any coach and any level, high school all the way to college, because again, this helps for middle school to high school to prep or college or JUCO, and JUCO university to NFL, CFL, any professional athletes. So if you have the means, just, you know, it's free to use, it's completely free to use. Go to purpleshiftlive.com, sign up and download the app and share it with your team. The best thing to do is just get the athletes on here and, you know, ask the athletes to share it. Because, you know, right now there's a ranking system, so you can get verified for a 40-yard dash or vertical. So right now I'm number 1, but, you know, it's out of like me and like 50 other coaches, so it doesn't mean much. but it will mean much as it grows.
Yeah.
So, when you have 50,000 people on the app, being number one means something. But I would also encourage the universities that maybe, oh, well, there's not a database for it. Well, again, I was at Texas Tech and I knew kind of how the recruiting went. So I know there's a list of probably like 50 kids that they're pretty sure about for scholarships. This is for the list of 999 that want to come to your university. I would just recommend sending it out to these kids, telling them, hey, go get your SAT scores for athletics and get verified for your 40 broad jump and all these other things. And if we like your athleticism, we'll contact you later or invite you into a camp. It's just a filtering process. That's all PurpleShift is. So that's how you can do. Just go to purpleshiftlive.com, sign up and download the app and share it with the kids and share it with even the college coaches you're talking to already or the high school coaches you're talking to.
Okay. Well, we'll be sure to share it in the notes section, the description, right, on the podcast, on Facebook and YouTube, and we'll be sure to share it out there with you. So, brother, hey, Micah, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for the man you are, the great son, right? The great fiance, the great teacher, coach, athlete, but most importantly, the great human being you are. The one thing I've really gotten from this conversation is what a big heart you have, right? Like of you, just this passion to just remind people that the power to create is always comes from within. And you just have to focus on what you can control. So thank you for providing me and our community with that simple reminder, brother. And I'm really enthused to see, where this adventure takes us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you just giving the time out of your day to think about me for being on this podcast. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing because I guess the biggest feeling I get from all this is that, hopefully someone out there through my experience, like gains hope or whatever it is and makes their day happier and like, okay, I get it. Just because of what I've been through. So my struggles is someone else's help. And that's awesome feeling to know that. So thank you for the opportunity for doing that.
It's all good, brother. So folks, Micah shared with you so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that will not only help you succeed as an athlete, but more importantly, in the game of life. But as I often remind you in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's the consistent and focused application of that great knowledge that actually creates great results. So my challenge to you is put in the reps and sets today, right? Rep in, rep out is how you put yourself in a position to experience those great results. And my reminder to you, as I do all the time in the huddle, is you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. So have an amazing rest of your day. Have a blessed start to your weekend if you're watching this live. And I look forward to chatting with you next time in the huddle. Have a great day, everyone.